Hey, have you ever had a moment where you just finished the worship set for the day and you walk off stage and you just feel physically off because of how awkward something was or a mistake? Or maybe even the opposite. You had one of the greatest worship sets and it was a powerful move of God and you want to be consistent in replicating that. Today in this video, I want to talk about the one thing that we've done for a very long time after every worship set. And my name is Brendan. If you're new to this channel, I've led worship for 15 years. And I just want to talk about the one thing that we do consistently each week after the worship set is done. And simply, it's called, we don't have an official name for it, but what I refer to it as is the debrief. And it's a critical moment. Sometimes those moments after a worship set can be sensitive, for many different reasons. Because of mistakes that were made, or just there was a great, powerful move, and people's lives were just impacted in a powerful way by the power of God. And those moments are critical. And something for our worship team that we've done for a long time is that we always kind of take a few minutes, and it's not really formal, but it's kind of a routine to it where we talk about, does anything need to change? What did we like? What didn't we like? And in that, I just kind of want to break it down in a little bit more specifics. Three things that I really think that are critical for like an actionable debrief for you and your team, is that, as leaders and even to everybody, because, leadership kind of 101 is our attitudes kind of trickle down. If we're tense, that can have an effect on the situation. If we're calm and we're collected and we speak with grace, that goes a long way with your team as well. But first off, that I have listed here is just to be positive about the moments. We know, I've been doing this for a long time. So wheels can fall off. But honestly, and I said this in a previous video, a lot of times as musicians and worship leaders, we're the only ones that really notice whenever there's a mistake. So always be positive when you come off. Try not to huff and puff, and I've been guilty of that before, and it just doesn't go well. Like I was saying too, that time right after a worship set is always so sensitive and critical. People can be potentially frustrated with mistakes or distractions, not even anything that the worship team has control over. If there was a lighting issue or if there's a sound issue, whatever the case, it can have an effect. It's always a good practice to highlight what went well instead of focusing on the negatives, which even though focusing on negative things is necessary at times. Make a point of asking the team if they think anything could have gone better. That's almost, those kinds of conversations where you ask for input, that's almost always a more fruitful conversation with better results in the long term than it is just always pointing out mistakes. The second thing that I want to talk about, kind of that debrief that we keep in mind each week is, when you do need to offer correction or you need to make an adjustment, whenever there are consistent mistakes or missed cues or transitions, those are things that seem to, they need a little bit more focused attention from leadership so that they can be addressed and not happen either in the next service or the following week, whatever the case. However, in that, grace as a leader always needs to be our primary focus in that, delivering that hey, this transition here, let's switch keys just a little bit quicker, instead of, hey, you missed that transition and it was a little abrupt. You see the difference in that? There's a way that you can say things and get your point across without it being so abrasive. And that's not a skill that comes easily to some, myself included. It's something I've had to work at hard. But the keeping in mind that to always be graceful, always lead with humility, and really come at situations like that where you try to put yourself in everybody else's shoes and make sure that you're speaking to people the way that you want to be spoken to yourself. And again, that plays into a lot of worship teams. These folks are volunteers. It's critical to keep that in mind, that it's not a paid position, that these people are sacrificing their time, number one for the Lord, but also for the church. And it's important to keep that in mind when we're speaking to them with grace. And remember that we're always on the same team. Nobody's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. Remember, correct people with grace. And the last thing, that each week is that to always be, as a worship leader especially, always encourage your team. regardless of how things went during the worship set, man, just always keep that in mind, that an encouraging word really can build somebody up and just make their entire day, especially if they made mistakes. Especially, regardless, everybody loves to be encouraged. And the way that we can do that, and I use this example in a way of, if we need to encourage someone but also correct them at the same time. We've heard, I'm sure, ye old compliment sandwich. You compliment them, you give the correction, and then you encourage and compliment them at the end, and you form a nice little tasty compliment sandwich. That's critical. Leave your team with a good taste in their mouth, not a bad one, because the human nature, unfortunately, is we have a tendency to remember bad more so than the years of good. So yeah, just remember that when you correct, always encourage people and be graceful. That compliment sandwich is great. And lastly, I just want to close with this today. Kind of end with this thought is, man, we're all in this together. Love your team and lead them with patience and grace. That's just, it sounds super simple because it is, but there's so much nuance to that. And however you are leading your team, just remember humility, grace, patience. Because when you really come to a place to lead your team with love and grace and patience, they're going to trust you. They're going to appreciate you. And man, I think that honestly, and a lot of times that inspires them to improve when you know that that we as leaders, that we love and care about those that are on our team. So man, this has been just a great video. I love sharing this information with you. I hope that it helps. And will we get it perfect every time? No, but we can always learn from our mistakes. God bless.